Well, it's delighted to be back in Venice and talking to you, Philip, on this lovely sunny morning. For the record, we are not on licensed premises. There is no Negroni in sight. We are instead in the Palazzo Gwynne Jones.
Yes, the unlicensed premises.
The unlicensed premises, with a rather sleepy Mimi looking at us from the floor.
Yes, from the floor. Yeah, too tired even to get onto the sofa.
A very nice spot, I have to say. You will have your 8th Venetian book coming out this week. And I think it's fair to say that in terms of resident English crime writers in Venice, you're kind of the king of the hill now.
I'm certainly in the top one of resident Welsh crime writers. Yes, it's like there's, as far as I know, there's nobody else. But, and Donald Leon has made it easier, of course, by moving to Geneva.
That's true. That's true. It's been a fantastic journey watching you over the years, and I think what people don't appreciate, before we get on to the next book, is that you're kind of the accidental author, aren't you? You never came here intending to write books.
I am absolutely an accidental author. I came here along with Caroline back in 2012, and we came to teach English, and that's what we did. And I did that until 2 years ago. I had no intention of writing a book. It just came about because I put my blog on moving to Venice. I put it out as a self-published book, and one of those things which does not happen, an agent got in touch with me and encouraged me through writing of the Venetian game. And then it's no like sort of big moment where you wake up and you think, hey, I'm an author. How cool is that? It's just you realize after a while, after a few years, that, oh, this is kind of what I do now. Yeah.
And that first book, did you find it hard? I mean, did you have it? You had no idea what you were going to do. You
No, I remember Googling how many words in an average length novel. And that brings you everything from, I don't know, I think, a suitable boy. Okay, well, that's quite a lot of words. I don't think I can do that. My agent said anywhere between 80,000 or 90,000 should be about right. But I hadn't written anything resembling even the basics of a novel before. I suppose I'd read a lot, so I knew what books were supposed to do. Well, and I read a reasonable amount. Yeah, it's kind of important. And I'd read quite a lot of crime, which was probably useful. And I watch a lot of cinema, and in some ways the two of them can work in a very similar way. But yes, I didn't know what I was doing, and I got lucky with it.
Where did Nathan come from? Did you have him early on? Did you struggle trying to find the right protagonist?
I did struggle with that, and in fact I rewrote that first chapter several times until I came up with using first-person narration, and that was the only one that seemed to work for me. And the idea of Nathan came because I was teaching an actual honorary consul in English. And I thought, I can't write a police procedural because people will just think I'm copying Donald Leon. And nobody's going to do it better than Donald Leon, really. Also, I didn't know how you went about researching that sort of thing. I can write as an expat in Venice. I was pretty sure I could do that. And then my experiences with the honorary consul for Thailand, where people were coming to him with problems every time I went round to teach him business English, made me think that it actually stopped. It actually removed most of my problems. He would know people with the police. He would know, people in pretty much various areas of Venetian society. And I thought, yeah, this removes, at a stroke, many of my problems. So that's how Nathan came about.
And he's obviously a very popular character. People must be asking you about him and questions like that all the time, I guess.
Well, he's always second to the cat. Gramsci the cat is everybody's favourite. And of course, I painted myself into a corner with Gramsci the cat because being a cat, there is a limit as to what he can actually do, but he has to be there in every book, of course. People do ask me a lot about him, and people say, are you Nathan? And I say, well, no, but we like the same things. I heard Donna Leon once saying that she likes the same things as Brunetti because she thought if she was going to spend, 9 months of every year in his head, she wanted it to be with somebody who she liked rather than the sort of alcoholic, abusive husband or something like that. So Nathan likes prog rock, he likes old films, all that sort of stuff.
Right. Over the course of 8 books, how has he changed? How has your writing changed, do you think?
I think he's changed a bit. In fact, I've had mail from people saying they didn't like him very much in the first book because he was, he's he's a bit lost. His marriage is broken up. His wife has left him, and he's in a bit of a bad emotional state. And people thought he was a bit of a wimp and a bit of a miserable one at that as well. But I'm very glad they stuck with him. He's a more stable character now. He's not afraid so much as to sort of get involved in physical stuff, even though he's never picked up a gun or a knife in his life. And, he's not a fighting character, but he has punched a couple of people.
It's funny, there are readers who seem to think that every book protagonist should be Jack Reacher, going out there and whacking people all the time. I've had that response as, a hero should be a hero, but actually somebody who displays heroic qualities who's not naturally a hero is much more interesting, I think.
Rather than the physical superhero, yes, which is, I do mean that in this case, the all-conquering macho sort of figure in that. And I don't think I could write that.
It wouldn't really fit with Venice, would it?
Well, no, that's the thing. It wouldn't fit with Venice. No, I can see it working, sort of in the States or somewhere like that, or even in grittier parts of the UK. But in Venice, it's not going to work because you can't have somebody walking around, tooled up with heavy weaponry or improvising weapons out of what comes to hand. Or there's probably bits of a gondola you could use.
Yeah, it's one of the things I love about setting stories here is the fact that you cannot have car chasers.
No,
nothing's going to happen quickly. It's like a theatre in the round. It's like a stage on which the characters are trapped. So you have to focus on the characters, don't you?
Yeah, it's like when we moved here, you have to adjust to the pace of the city and realise that, okay, I'm not going to get to that part of town quickly. You have to, you adjust personally to the pace of the city, and I think the stories adjust themselves to the pace of the city. And and that does give you more time for character stuff.
And in terms of what they tend to call the inciting event, the spark for each book, are they a struggle to find, or have you just got a whole bookload of them?
Well, it's a bit difficult, I suppose, because Nathan in his job as an honorary consul is not just going to be assigned to work on a case. There has to be a hook to draw him in. So in book 3, it was his work as a translator, which was the hook. In book 5, it's his wedding and his honeymoon, which is the hook. In a couple of novels, it's a dead British citizen, which as the consul he'd be involved in. I've got them plotted out to book 10. And there'll be more after that, I hope. It's just I'd never written anything before I came to Italy. And I'd been a long time in Edinburgh, which is a huge inspiration. We think of the great generation of Scottish crime writers. Never inspired me to do anything. But when I came to Venice, you will walk around and you will see something, which is the inspiration. A few months ago, I went to the Church of San Giuseppe in Stello. I went inside for the first time. And I saw an object there and thought, oh, great murder weapon.
How many murders have you committed in your time in Venice?
I haven't done a precise count. Now, I'm not sure if you count murders which were in the past, but nevertheless feature maybe as an inciting event in the book. It must be about 25, I think, which I think is 24 more than the actual number of murders there have been. And there was a survey, actually, in one of the Italian newspapers. It was the second safest city in Italy. The safest, apparently, was Salerno, but nobody seems to believe that.
So the new book, Book 8, is called
The Venetian Sanctuary. And this time, we're moving slightly out of the Centro Storico. We're still in Venice. But the opening scenes are set on San Francesco del Deserto.
A place very few visitors will know of.
Well, it's a little bit difficult to get to because you can't get a Vaporetto service there. If you want to go there, you have to go to Burano, and there is one boat a day which will take you. And it's a Franciscan monastery. In 2020, the year of COVID, it was their 800th anniversary. And I thought I wanted to try and do something to try and draw the two events together. Everybody said to me, don't do a COVID novel. Nobody's going to want to read about this. And I do understand that. And I know there are other writers who are ignoring it completely or just touching on it. But because it was just so interesting living here in Venice and seeing these events happening firsthand and seeing the city so quiet, I'd go out to the shops in the morning and there would be no traffic on the Giudecca Canal and it would be still and it would be reflecting a perfectly blue sky because there were no flights or there was one flight a day from Rome or something like that. And I thought, what if I just set it after that period of complete lockdown where the city went back to normal for a few months in the summer, where there were very few visitors from outside of Italy because travel was very, very difficult. and the number of tourists had dropped, and it felt as if Venice had gone back to the Venetians for that 3-month period before the next series of lockdowns, of course. And I thought it was worth recording in the form of a novel.
I remember I made it here. I had to quarantine for 5 days on the way in. And then it was a ghost city.
Yeah, you really had to want to come here. I mean, there was so much you had to do, yeah.
And it was very awkward getting in. You had to test all the time.
I remember that, yeah.
And the canals were there was so little traffic. The canals were so clear.
So
you could see the fish.
That was it. Yeah, you could see the fish.
Sort of, you know, an octopus swimming down the Grand Canal and things like that.
That's right, yes. Yeah.
Yes, it was an extraordinary time. And I remember people saying, this is what Venice will learn from, and after this, there won't be so much tourism and it'll all be different. But it isn't, is it?
No, it feels like it did back in 2019, to be honest. Every year now seems to be a record year. We don't seem to have learned anything from it about how to manage mass tourism. There's this ridiculous scheme for the turnstiles at Piazzale Rome.
Which nobody seems to understand.
Nobody seems to understand how it can possibly work. Are you going to do that at Ferrovia as well? Check people coming off the trains? Short of removing the Ponte della Libertà, I'm not sure how you can do it.
In Book 8, there are no tourists. There's hardly anybody here.
Federica says at a certain point the streets are full of Italians. Yes.
And then Nathan is going to take a bit of a holiday for a while.
Nathan is going on a well-deserved holiday for a bit, yes. I have a contract for another 2, and as I always say to people, if people enjoy reading about him and if I enjoy writing about him, I'm very happy to continue. And I still enjoy spending time in his company. But I'd had this idea for a few years now about a series set in Sicily, which would be a little bit different. Italian protagonists, third-person point of view. And I really wanted to have a go at that. And my publisher said yes, and we'll run them on alternate years. So it'll be off to Sicily in 2025, and then Nathan returns in 2026. And we'll do a year on, a year off. I fancied exploring Sicily because it's the part of Italy that my wife and I know best after Venice. And the history, like Venice's, is so rich, but in a very different way. The landscape of the place, the way you have modern towns with urban sprawl, with proper urban crime, 3 kilometres away from some of the most beautiful villages you'll see in Italy clinging to the sides of Etna.
And you do have crime. You have real crime and real murder.
Well, real crime and real murders, yes. Inventing stuff won't be so much of an issue this time, I suspect. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. And
you already know the rough story for it?
The rough story has been in my head for a couple of years now, yeah. And so I put together a proposal for my agent and for my editor. Wrote down about 10,000 words, and they said, yeah, great, let's go for it. Let's see what happens. So,
Will this involve more research trips back to Sicily?
Oh, I hope so. I do hope so. Actually, I've got a couple planned this year. Caroline and I, we normally go in August to get us out of Venice for a couple of weeks when Venice is, kind of hard work. But I do need to go to this particular part of Sicily in June because there's a particular festival I want to see firsthand.
Well, it's always lovely seeing you, and perhaps later licensed premises will be involved.
I do hope so. It's lovely to see you again, David.
Thank you.